Hello everyone, Hyper here, and welcome to the Enhancement Shaman Battle for Azeroth preview, the video where we talk about all of the abilities and talents that were added, changed, or removed from the game, and I'll also give you a quick glimpse at a potential talent build or two, and then have a little discussion about my overall impressions of the class. Let's get started with the baseline abilities. The only thing that was removed from the Enhancement Shaman was Stormlash, and this used to give two party members some extra nature damage. We saw two new baseline abilities added. First was Tremor Totem, and this dispels a fear, charm, or sleep effect, and it works the same way as it did before. Capacitor Totem was removed as a talent and added to baseline, so you might know this as a Lightning Surge Totem from Legion. They just renamed it and added it as a baseline ability. As far as abilities that were changed, Flame Tongue, Frostbrand, and Rockbiter all had their range changed from 10 yards to 20 yards. Stormbringer now makes your next Storm Strike free instead of it giving you a 50% cost reduction. Storm Strike CD was also reduced from 15 seconds to 9 seconds, and our Wind Fury proc rate was increased by 5%. Next, let's take a look at the talent tree, because there are quite a few changes here. In the first tier, Windsong was removed and replaced by Boulder Fist, and this talent used to be in the last tier. Landslide was moved to tier 2 and replaced by Lightning Shield. This new version is a damage and resource generation boost when it reaches 15 charges, and it also still deals damage to enemies if they melee attack you. In tier 2, Feral Lunge and Windrush Totem were moved to row 5, and Rainfall was completely removed as a talent. Landslide was moved to this tier and changed to sometimes increase the damage of your next Storm Strike by 100%. Forceful Winds is a new talent that causes your Wind Furies to buff subsequent Wind Furies and increase their Maelstrom generation. Totem Mastery is again a new talent which gives you 4 different buffs. The first is generate 1 Maelstrom every second. The second totem that it summons increases the damage of your Storm Strike by 5%. The third increases your Lava Lash damage by 10%, and then the fourth increases the chance to trigger Wind Fury by 10%. In tier 3, Lightning Surge Totem was made baseline and replaced by Static Charge, which gives our Cap Totem CDR based on the number of targets hit. Earth Grab Totem and Voodoo Totem were both removed from the game, and Earth Shield is a new talent that essentially works the same way as it did in the past. Spirit Wolf is again a new talent which gives us damage reduction and movement speed when in Ghost Wolf, but it takes time to stack up, so that's kind of the heavy downside of it. In tier 4, Lightning Shield was moved and Ancestral Swiftness was completely removed from the game. Searing Assault is a new talent which causes our Flame Tongue to also apply a 6-second dot to the target. Overcharge was moved to this talent row. In tier 5, Tempest and Empower Stormlash were removed, and Overcharge was moved away from this row. Nature's Guardian is a new talent which makes you heal for 20% of your max HP if you fall below 35%. It does not work like a cheat death because if you take fatal damage you will still die and not heal back. Feral Lunge is moved to this row along with Windrush Totem. In tier 6, Sundering was changed to Incap for 2 seconds instead of knocking enemies back. The other two talents here remain unchanged. In tier 7, Ascendance was changed to reduce the cooldown of Storm Strike by 66% instead of 80%. Earth Spike was nerfed from a 30% damage increase to a 20%. Since Boulder Fist was moved to a different talent row, here we get a new talent called Elemental Spirits. And this reduces the CD of your Feral Spirit, and when you summon them, they each get one of 3 random enhancements. The Lightning one increases your Storm Strike and Wind Fury damage by 100%. Frost makes your auto attacks deal extra frost damage and slow the target. Fire increases all fire damage by 20%, and Lava Lash causes the target to burn for 20% of the direct damage. Now let's take a look at a potential talent build. In tier 1, we take Lightning Shield, because this gives us extra Maelstrom generation whenever we get 15 charges, and also deals a minor amount of damage. In tier 2, you take Forceful Winds, and this is kind of an RNG talent, but as long as you're proccing Wind Fury pretty often, This talent does grant you an overall increase of Maelstrom generation and damage. In tier 3, I don't really like Earth Shield. Currently, it's super undertuned, and even when questing, you are kind of not really gaining too much benefit from it because one healing surge will do way more damage than the healing you get from Earth Shield. So on top of that, the CDR from Static Charge in dungeons especially is super nice and it's probably way more beneficial. In tier 4, Overcharge is currently the best talent because as long as you're pressing your lightning bolt on cooldown with at least 40 Maelstrom, it gives you quite a bit of damage boost. In tier 5, again, it's a utility row, so it's up to you. Tier 6, you can either play with Fury of Air or Sundering. Crashing Storm is super undertuned right now. So I like Sundering just for the in caps in dungeons. You can use it as an interrupt and you have more control over it. And also Fury of Air really slows down your gameplay. And if you take this talent, you will be very hesitant to use Lava Lash at all. Mostly because you don't want to drop below that Maelstrom limit where it actually falls off, then you have to reactivate it. Overall, my issue with this talent is the same as RJW on Windwalker Monk. It really slows down your rotation and makes you want to play around Maelstrom way more than you should. And then in the last tier, you can either take Earthen Spike or Elemental Spirits. I kind of like Elemental Spirits, but here the issue is that if you get Lightning, that's a huge damage boost. If you get Frost or Fire, those are kind of the inferior ones. So it's kind of a gamble where about half the time you will get at least one Lightning. But I don't know, I just like a little bit of RNG in this rotation. And also Earthen Spike, I just don't like playing around with it too much. At higher haste values where you can potentially fit 2 lightning bolts inside of 1 Earthen Spike, that will probably grant you more damage overall. But for now, in my gear, Elemental Spears does seem to do a little better. Let's take a look at this build on the target dummy. I'm not going to hero, but I will use Feral Spirits here, and hopefully we roll a lightning buff. Run in, Feral Spirit, get our Flame Tongue up, and immediately get that huge lightning bolt in. And right there we got a proc, so we're just going to spend the Maelstrom. And then from here it's pretty much just juggling your Maelstrom and making sure you keep your Storm Strike on cooldown. And always use your lightning bolt as soon as it comes off cooldown, because that's our most damage currently. And wasting those procs is a really huge deal. So we are getting huge back-to-back procs here. We don't even have to Rockbiter. Also, a few things about Enhancement Shaman. With the extended range of our builders, it's really nice that we can kind of build up some Maelstrom as we run in, rather than having to be super close to the target like we did before. So right now, we're going to get our second Feral Spirits here in 35 seconds, and until then, we're just juggling our Maelstrom and making sure we're keeping our Storm Strike on cooldown. So overall, the rotation feels super smooth. Honestly, on single target, this is really nice. I will show you the AoE rotation here in a bit, and that is where some of the issues come from on Enhancement Shaman. But for single target, the rotation feels super smooth with this build, and honestly, I really enjoy the way it plays. Now let's take a look at the AoE build here. So we use the same build, but the rotation changes a little bit. You want to Crash Lightning every 10 seconds, which will allow you to cleave with Storm Strike and Lava Lash. And obviously you want to Sundering on cooldown, because this will be one of our major AoE damage contributors. Other than that, you do everything pretty much the same. So we run in with Wolves, get our first Sundering here, then Crash Lightning, and just go ham on the target. You still want to get those lightning bolt procs in there, just because it is quite a bit of priority damage, and that is essentially what Enhancement Shaman is. It's not a huge AoE cleave build, it's mostly priority damage with a little bit of cleave. And I feel like that's okay as long as the damage itself is there in the future. Currently, our Crash Lightning damage, or the damage that we get from it through our cleave, is not all that great, and hopefully it sees a little bit of an uptuning in the future. but hopefully this gets fixed and it's not a gameplay issue, it's more of just a tuning issue. Enhancement Shaman does feel similar to how it used to be in previous expansions, I guess not counting WoD, where you could just fire Nova. But outside of that, we're mostly priority damage, right? We'll do big damage to one target in a group and then do a little bit of cleave to everything around it, which is alright, but like I mentioned in all of my previous videos for specs that have issue with AoE, we are moving into a world where Mythic Plus is extremely important. And if you don't have good AoE, especially burst AoE, then you will probably be left behind when it comes to super high keys. So what are my overall impressions of the Enhancement Shaman? Well, the single target build feels very fluid to play if you don't take Fury of Air. And that makes our level 90 row kind of weird choices when it comes to single target. But I guess Blizzard is moving away from the idea of having like a single target, a passive, then an AoE talent to choose from in each row. And they're making you choose between different AoE talents, which I guess is an okay idea as long as all of the classes have to do this. A lot of the talents need to be tweaked as far as I can tell. For example, Boulder Fist and Landslide together should give you a nice little synergy, but the damage output currently, from what I've tested personally, is just not there. Also in the level 60 row, Overcharge does just extremely overpowers Hailstrom and Searing Assault. So if those two talents were brought up a little bit, or maybe Overcharge nerfed, then we would actually have a choice in that row. But as it stands right now, Overcharge is just so good that it just overpowers everything else. The last tier is okay choices. Ascendance is obviously something that needs to be looked at. I haven't really played around with it too much in this later iteration where it gives you 66% CDR instead of 80. But as an idea, Ascendance is a good talent. I just don't like having a 3-minute cooldown overall, because honestly it's a 3-minute cooldown that lasts 15 seconds. So long CD, short duration. And it would need to give you an insane amount of damage for it to be worth taking. And on boss fights, maybe this will be a talent that we'll see used, but for Mythic Plus and dungeons and leveling, honestly feels like Elemental Spirits or Earthen Spike is much better overall. So what are my issues with Enhancement Shaman? Well, the biggest issue is the AoE, and if that gets fixed, then Enhancement will be in a really good place going into BFA. Second issue is that Shaman, and Enhancement Shaman in particular, was never a meta spec. So would I choose this as my alt? Probably not. Mostly because Enhancement Shaman is not really a meta spec. And when I'm choosing an alt, I'm looking at something that I know will be good in raiding. And Enhancement Shaman has had its places. We saw in Antorus it did really well. But it is one of those niche picks that at times it's very good, other times it's a little bit lackluster. So we'll see how it ends up being in BFA. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below and I will take a look at them. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and sub to the channel. Thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one.